Okay, so week 14 in our course, we're quickly moving towards the bottom part of the semester of the 18 weeks. So what I want to do though is before I get into the content and talk about what we're going to do, not only today, but actually for the rest of the semester, I want to spend a moment and talk about week 13. Because week 13, I messed up. The instruction I gave for how to create the audit file was not good, and I really appreciated all the feedback I got from students, and I really want you to know that in my mind, it was clear when I gave you an example that you needed to recreate that, but I see how it was not at all. And it kind of led me into thinking about the attendance post because asking you and all of us to do a mental health check in and then giving a problem or having you attempt a problem that wasn't well written for instruction was bad timing. I mean, it was definitely not my intention to create even more challenges to get work done because my goal is actually to have you spend the majority of your time actually working on the work and not trying to figure out what I want. But this really leads into when we're taking and we're learning tech skills, one of the things we really do is talk about iteration, right? So the more we do something, the better we get at it. And for this course, having this be the first time I'm moving through this content and creating the course like flying the plane, right? What is it? Building the plane as I fly it. Um, I definitely know there are places I missed the mark, and I will be iterating next semester to clean that stuff up. But I just want you to know, and you've already seen the video from me for, hopefully more clarifying that. But even that, I realized today after talking to students, to one particular student who I haven't asked them if I can use her name, so I'm not going to. But this student came in and talked to me. They know who they are and really helped me understand why those instructions were not did not make sense to them because there were pieces there that I just assumed you would know, okay, include this in the file. And again, assumptions, right? When we make certain assumptions in life, but coming back to the attendance post is I want to say this is that having a place we can have a mental health check-in is really important, and sometimes just actually being able to be heard can be helpful. I notice for me sometimes I just need to get it out. It's like and sometimes maybe just reading what you wrote, you realize, wow, it really has been a stressful semester. And it was kind of hard for me too because I saw so many of you were saying this class contributes to that, and I was like, okay, that's one of the things I definitely want to think about is like how, matter of fact, I think next week I'm going to do this is, and maybe this weekend I start thinking about what are things that you would suggest I do to make this class less stressful. By the way, learning can be stressful whenever you're asked to do something, right? And again, not that I can't make it better. I definitely want to. But anytime I learn something, there's a certain amount of stress that comes from that. Anyway, my point is that thank you for your willingness to share through the attendance post. I hope that in your lives that you do find more ways to find mental health. And I hope this for myself as well. I know what I need to do. I just have to do it and be willing to do it and continually do it. And the more stressed I become, the more important my mental health process becomes, the things that are important to me. So I just wanted to say that because I think that is just, I don't know, I was really, reading your post was like, wow, and I know collectively, like, I don't want to talk too much about the world because the world's out there and this is the course, but I know it can kind of encroach upon our mental health as well. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to say a word about that and apologize for my missing the mark. But I have to give myself a break too because I can feel bad and I can do better, and I don't have to continue to feel bad because sometimes when you do something, you iterate, you make it better the next time around. All right, so what I've done in this process, and I did this weekend after I finished doing the code along lectures that you're about to do, is I actually gave some time to thinking about the rest of the semester because I already had it in the schedule to actually have us start winding down the semester at week 16 to where instead of 2 items due per week, it's only well, besides attendance, then it's one other item. And I do that intentionally, and I try to do that in most of my courses. It's a little harder in my programming class because it's a 4-unit programming class. But for this course and for many of my courses, I do try to wind that down for mental health reasons, honestly, because I think what I see often as a campus community, it's like so much what happens is we put big items at the end of the semester. And it's like then you as a student have, based on the classes that you have, one or more, one, two or more than that, projects or major things that you have to do. So I had already built that into the schedule, but now I got to actually go back and think about what are the things I want us to complete. And so I went and spent some time looking at the CS50 course and thought about, because I knew we weren't going to be able to complete the CS50 course. I knew that going in, and I knew we were going to get to viewing, and I wasn't sure because I knew I had a little bit of a play there at the end. So I decided to do the following. So next week we're going to do the ICAs because I think those are good. I'm going to actually figure out a way to do them better though because I had way too much content. I'm going to use ChatGPT to actually condense that to where hopefully they're not as big because that created some problems. You'll hear me talk about that next week. We will do one problem set related to viewing. And then for the week 16, you'll have an attendance post. And actually, I think I'll move these to the Friday. Actually, that's Thanksgiving, so maybe that actually makes sense there to have that also. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to do the lectures for optimizing and then for scaling. So after next week, right after the 15th, week 15, then the last two will be just going over the lectures. Because I think in this case, what I love about CS50, I love so much about the CS50 course. Actually, I'm going to write Carter an email thanking him for all the work that he's done. But in this case, we can give you introduction to optimizing or creating indexes, really helpful to speed things up, especially on large data sets. He's going to already kind of previewed that in the starting time. He talks about the IMDb, if you know this database for movies and actors, and it's just a huge database. Okay, so we actually can continue to use MySQLite here, but on the last one, which is scaling, we're going to see two different database platforms, MySQL and Postgres. And then I'm not going to have you install those things, which, by the way, it's not a bad thing to learn how to do those as well. So, but we're just going to take notes and we'll still code. You just won't be able to look at your code running, which is kind of a bummer, right? But I still think it's good to be introduced. So before I move on to, just as a reminder, next on week 15, right, is when, if you're not on the schedule for having a technical interview, I will place a grade into that so that you know how that impacts your grade. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me, okay? Okay, so that's my plan for the rest of the semester. So what you're going to do here is kind of what we've done, which is that first, and I've noticed there's a real pattern with the lectures from Carter, right? The first 20 minutes is an introduction, which is really good. And when I first started doing this viewing, I first kind of thought, why? It's like, why are we doing this? We can write... and he focuses a lot, which, by the way, it's a good review, too, because he talks about subqueries and he revisits joins, right? But the idea that we can write a SQL query that then has a view that is basically that query that we can then run simplified queries against. And there's a lot of different reasons and ways that from security to partitioning to what's called CTE, which is common table expression. What's the other one? There's another one. Partitioning, I may have mentioned that one. Anyway, there's all these different reasonings behind that, but we also see in this week one of the limitations of SQLite 3, which kind of leads me to go, I'm glad to actually have you at the last part of this class be introduced to scaling, because there are definitely areas that SQLite works well with. But when it comes to security, there's definitely some downsides. Carter covers that this week. And so it's like, to me, it kind of is a nice match set to understand those things as well. So for this week, your point comes from taking notes on those first, and I think I have a link. I think it's 21 minutes actually to 2112, right? So you build that folder. So we have viewing, that's the same level as writing. I did put over the database. It comes from one we'd used before. There's nothing different there, right? But I think this is really a good one to end on. Again, like what I said when I first started doing it, I didn't quite get the benefit, but now having gone through it, I see where this idea of, and you can, have these views of your data, right, by stripping, when we do the joins, and it goes back to kind of those simple single table in the beginning of this course. Anyway, thanks for your time. I hope in this reply you can just tell me, yeah, I got the notes done, or if you have any comment related to what I've talked about before, please give me that comment as well. All right, thanks so much. Talk to you later.